Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one.
Hi.
Hello, Christina. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. It's Scorpio season.
Oh my gosh.
I'm feeling it.
Yes, I want to talk about that. First, a quick hello to our audience. For those of you who are new or maybe aren't new, we have a special episode for you today of Ask a Psychic, which is a really fun little project Christina and I have decided to take on together. Christina is a psychic medium and spiritual teacher. I am an oracle and transformation coach, and we wanted to kind of peel back the veil on what that is and how that looks in a reading and how we operate for all of you. And so these episodes are us doing a live reading with someone who comes to us. We don't know them, or we, barely know them. They come to us with a problem, and you guys get to see it all live and in action, us helping them, walk through, us tapping into different dimensions, tapping into different sources of information to bring them some clarity.
So this is such a special episode.
Yes, it is.
Because I love this with Britt, because you could watch in real time her work through the blocks instead of us just delivering it. Like, we actually helped her in the moment shift into a different way of being, of producing, of hustling, of creating. And it was such an honor to be able to hold that vulnerability, to do it live in real time instead of hear and take away. She was a good sport.
Yeah, she was a great student, and her story is so relatable. And I know we're going to get into that, but first I want to give you an early happy birthday, my little Scorpio friend.
Thank you.
How are you? How is the season treating you as, your season? I'm so curious, because I know Cancer season is my season. I know the minute it hits, I'm in flow. It feels like my season. Scorpio season doesn't feel like that for me.
Yep.
Not gonna lie. And Scorpio season has a little bit of a different mood to it, but as a Scorpio, I'm so curious to hear how it feels for you.
I feel totally at home. I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I'm in lukewarm water where everyone's kind of in it all around, and I'm just kind of welcome to the party, and this is great. I feel lit up. I feel energetic. I feel sensual. I feel creative. I feel I don't know, I actually feel less intense, even though the season's usually more intense for people. I love the conversations people are having with me. It just seems like they're, doing a whole inventory of their entire life, and death and rebirth and sex and love and all of it. I'm like, yes. And so I feel good. I feel really good. And I cried a lot last night, and I was like, wow, I haven't had one of those big cries in a long time. Leave it up to the season,
Yes. Well, you're kind of the master of the season, right? You're the master of the energy. You already know and are so familiar with the energy that it probably feels comforting, where to some of us, some others, it's there is some comfort to me in Scorpio season, because it's a water sign, and there's so many Scorpios in my life that I love and trust, and I see them thriving, and that's almost my reassurance of no, it's all good.
Yeah, you can thrive in the depth, it's true. No, it's a great opportunity, I think, for everyone to like look at the shadows, and I'm really appreciating all the memes that are about Scorpios right now because they're
Mhm.
just so spot on where I'm like, ooh, really, you really see me? Like
Yes.
we're watching, we're taking it in, we're not as vulnerable as you think, we're pretty private, but we're so loyal and once you're in, you're in with us. And
Yes.
also, like it's giving me a lot of reflection of this work that I'm doing. Like it's so spot on to be the person who goes into the underworld and those depths and the shadows and bringing them up to light to be
Yes.
transformed and transmuted into a new place in the universe and the energetic consciousness. So I feel at home with that too.
It's such a deep sign, and you guys are just so magical and mystical. And I do love the energy of the Scorpio.
Oh,
Scorpios and Cancers are soulmates. So
we are. I was
I
just
I
gonna say.
yes, I love and appreciate the energy, even if I don't feel fully as lit up as I do in
Yeah,
Cancer
you're supposed
season.
to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Great, I'm doing this right.
Yeah. You're supposed
All
to question
everyone hear
everything.
that? You guys are all doing this right if you're feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Verified by
Totally.
a Scorpio. Speaking of that, this episode with Britt today kind of triggered,
Hmm.
and honestly, this season is kind of triggering something for me that we want to talk about today. And I know it's triggering it for you because you wrote a Substack about it.
Sure did.
And that is a subject again that we talk about with Britt that kind of led her to showing up with us. And I'm sure you see, and I know I see in a lot of my clients is kind of the catalyst for this doing spiritual work is burnout.
Yeah.
Ugh, I kind of want to vomit when I say
Yeah.
it, actually. Like,
Okay, yeah. Take a sip of tea every time you hear us say the word burnout in this episode. No,
take a
it's
deep
it's
breath.
so perfect. And like anything, this is up in the collective right now. Like as I started writing this piece, I started noticing more people, talking about it. And it was actually challenging to dig into because there's so many ways to talk about this concept of burnout and reflecting on my own life and my journey, reflecting on the collective, reflecting on the masculine and feminine of it all, reflecting on systems and how broken they are to like keep us in the hustle culture. Um, and then like tips and ways sort of like out of it and through it and looking at your spirals and patterns and all of it. So I'm probably gonna have to do a follow-up Substack article on this, but that's all just to say like it's just so rich. So let's see where this conversation takes us. But yeah, I was just gonna say I love about Brit that um, it's so interesting when you reach a critical point of burnout and in a job where you're like, I once loved it and I was so lit up, and you
Mhm.
can name all of the reasons and the people that like kept you going, and you probably got into that career. Let's just talk about career right for now. And because you loved it and your heart was guiding you towards that. And then eventually you're going to get to a point where you're like, I don't know, I'm questioning everything. It feels really icky. And then in the case of Brit and a lot of people is then you're like, well, what if I do it on my own terms? What if I build my own thing? Okay. But then you take all of the
Yes.
patterns and the
Yes.
ways of being from the way that you burnt out onto your next endeavor. And
Yes.
without a deep pause of like, wait a minute, if I'm rebuilding everything, shouldn't I look at also the thing that got me to the burnout?
Yes. To me, at least in my journey and my experience, the moment of recognizing burnout, because I think a lot of us, and I know for me, are burnt out long, long, long before we
Yeah.
recognize it, right? Like
Yes.
by the time we can acknowledge it and
Yeah.
say it out loud, we are in the depths. We've been burnt out for years and we've been
Or
buried
char.
over
We're
and
just
over again.
char.
Yes.
Yeah. We're
Yes.
incinerated.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, oh God, how heartbreaking is that? Like, I think one of our
Yeah.
pieces of the work we do and part of my mission, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure you resonate with this, is to help make sure that people don't get to that place before
Yeah.
they wake up and get help. But to me, that moment feels like for me and a lot of things that I've seen in clients, that feels like the moment where the soul is like, fuck no,
Mhm.
stop. done. We're done. And it's almost this like resistance from the soul of like, okay, I tried to give you some heads up in more subtle ways. And for me, even a bunch of ways that weren't subtle at all. And I was still like, no, I'm resilient. I can push through. I can do this. Let me prove myself. And then the soul was like, no, 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 no. We're not moving forward. Or if you move forward, it costs you something so severe. Like I remember at my stage of recognizing burnout, I literally was crying to Dennis saying like, if I don't take a break, I'm going to die.
Yes.
Which sounds crazy. I'm sure it sounded crazy to him. Like someone who's not in it sounds crazy, but that's literally how it feels.
That's how it felt. I had that thought a lot. I'm like, I'm going to die. Like, and it felt so dramatic at the time, but like on an energetic cellular level, it was like, you cannot keep going. And, you know, that's a really interesting point about subtle signs versus like really big signs. And I think a lot of us can relate. And certainly for me, it showed up in my body where I would get sick a lot, or I just could not go to work. And I wasn't lazy. It was like the opposite. You know, I've been doing too much. And now the signs are a little bit more subtle, like definitely body stuff. I'll feel exhausted, but then like my social life will take a back burner, or like my workout habits, where it's just things get deprioritized, which doesn't seem as terrible in the moment because you're like, well, it's just temporary, but then it creeps up, and then next thing you know, you're never prioritizing the things because there's always more work to do. And you know, and then even more subtle signs where you just get the ick with like a manager, or something doesn't feel aligned with the way the business is run, or the money that you're making doesn't value your worth. Like you're just having these little hints of like, and then you kind of dismiss it, like, but it's okay, you know? So I'm curious for you, like, what were the subtleties? What were I feel like I'm going to die.
Oh my God, Christina. I mean, the universe was like beating me over the head, like beating me over the head. So many huge obstacles. And for me, my business has been the catalyst to this growth, right? Yeah. I almost feel like my business's second purpose, or maybe real purpose, is to push me to grow. And yeah, there were huge signs, huge things that like I would pride myself on being like, anyone else would have quit by now.
Totally.
You know, most people wouldn't be able to get through this, but look at me. I can push through it. I'm so resilient. Like, and it wasn't necessarily that my business was wrong for me, but the way I was going about operating in the business was not right for me, right?
That's such a good point. It's not that the work will stop all of a sudden or get less to do. There will always things to do, but your relationship to your life, your relationships, your work, your money, all of it, your worth, like all of that can feel really into a parasympathetic nervous system state versus this burnout, this adrenaline rush, this anxiety. And I think it's a really, really good point that a lot of us can relate to is like, I'm fiercely independent. I can do things on my own. We're smart, you know, women who are multitaskers, overachievers, all of those things. And I had a lover tell me once, one of my favorite things that I've ever heard, which was, I know you're so strong, but why would you want to have to be? Thanks, Gary.
Hi, we don't want to have to be. We don't want to have to be.
Not in those ways. Strength can feel soft. Strength can feel vulnerable. Strength can feel like patience and pausing. And we watched Britt go through this, even as we were kind of talking to her about ways that she could create more space. She said her new business venture was born out of deep rest, pausing, and a staycation alone in a glorious, luxurious hotel. And then she had this inspiration. And then she forgot that was the whole setting in which she birthed something, but she wasn't running the business from that place of pause. And there was a moment where you reflected in the reading, like, hold on, or you were like, how can you pause? What are the ways? And then she went, and here's how I can do it. And and I said, hold on, pause before
Yes.
you even answer. And then she started crying, and you could feel her whole energy shift into her truth and her vulnerability and how to build from that.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that example. And you and I know this so well. The magic is not in the doing, right? In the checking the things off
no.
the to-do list. It is in those silent moments, that space, that opportunity to just sit and be.
Hmm.
Like that's where the magic comes through, the breakthroughs, the great, like,
Yeah.
you can't sit down and force yourself to have a breakthrough, right?
No.
Like you need
Well,
to
it's
create
such a
the space.
paradox. And maybe you can, right? Maybe there's been like rigidity and force and pushing and all of that, and it's gotten you results. But a lot of people at some point, they're like, the results aren't coming as much anymore. They don't feel as good anymore, or they're
Hmm.
definitely not sustainable or lasting anymore. And I love a paradox because there's a saying of fast is slow and slow is fast.
Hmm.
I love that because it's true. If you really create time to pause, and it's not always set up that way for us. I was in
No.
Silicon Valley working in tech for a long time, and,
Well, and talk
startup that would
talk about
IPO.
masculine energy, right? Like
Yeah.
yes, you're operating in a masculine system and masculine energy
Hmm.
where it's like prove yourself, how
Hmm.
much can you get done? Like
Hmm.
the more you work, the better you are of a person, the more value you have.
Yeah. It's what, and it's attached to a number, and all of it.
Mm.
I think what's important for us to talk about, and I think a lot of people will relate to this, and know you and I do, is it's really sneaky when you go and do hard work for a really altruistic good cause. So where I'm getting close to burnout now that I'm doing this work full time and working with, thousands of people around the world, I'm like, I can give, I can work hard. It's helping so many people. I'm helping humanity. I'm raising the vibration. Like healing is the point, love is the point, and it's like wrapped in a really nice package. But if I still do the same pattern of overgiving, of people pleasing, of not having time to resource myself first, even the sacred rituals that go into like holding so much
Yes.
energetic frequency and every single time I talk to someone is a disservice to the cause. And so just because, they always say healers need healing, when we go into this, it's like we have to check that and be the change we want to see.
Yeah, and I think I want to share this because I think it's relatable. In you operating in that way, you like, yes, you feel progress. Yes, you are helping people, but that's only in one way. Like, what if there are much bigger ways, much more expansive ways for you to help people and have your impact and fulfill your purpose, but you can't see them because you have this tunnel vision of like
Totally.
doing it this one way.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the soul starts to come in and
Mhm.
nudge us,
Yeah.
gently and then not so gently to be like, no, 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 you're
Yes.
off track. You're
And you
missing
have to,
the
what I'm
point.
hearing you say is you have to leave space for the creativity to flow. That once you
Mm-hmm.
get laser focused or you put in a rigid structure of this is how I go, 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 sell, 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 whatever people do, then you're exactly right. Like it's like where's the breathing? Where is the moment to plant a new seed and watch something new
Mm-hmm.
grow and follow your creative inspiration and start over in these micro or macro ways and in the way that you do everything. That's the space that I'm in right now. I'm having a big reckoning.
Yeah, how do you reconcile that in your own life? How do you catch yourself? How do you not fall back into the patterns? Or sometimes it's not about not falling back into them, right? Sometimes we
Yeah,
do, and it's just
yeah.
like how quickly can you recognize and pull yourself out?
There's a few things. For me, it's always been easier to decide what feels like a no than it always is to be like, well, what's the next right action?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just feeling the places where I felt like burnt out and all of the things I was doing. Like I was doing astrology moon guides every new moon and every full moon. And I was like, I'm not an astrologer. Like I like
Mm-hmm.
this stuff, but is it really like helping. And I was like, but people love it and they ask for it. And I'm like, well, maybe I can point them to another great resource, and
Yes.
they can support that person. So like things like that where I was just like, this feels like a no. And then it's kind of like, well, what do I like? What did I like about it? And then kind of like pulling it apart. Like why did I start it? And it's like, well, I like writing. Okay, that's great. And then the other thing is feeling into my body. All of this is a somatic experience.
Yes.
If I create space to go, what does it feel like in my body to show up to this client, to this work, to this call, to this opportunity, to this workshop, all of it, like, is my body resisting? Do I feel exhausted or do I feel lit up? And then checking the masculine and feminine flow in my body. Does it feel expansive? Does it feel soft? Does it feel like there's space? Or does it feel push and force and structure and hold?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing that's just so important is I don't have to do this alone. Just because I have my own business, my business is not my own. It is for humanity. Like, it is not. And so can I bring in structures of people who feel in their feminine flow doing the masculine side of
Yeah.
the business?
Yeah.
And I hired someone for that who's amazing. And then I reached out to other, spirit channels and shamanic guides, and I was like, help me clear this, help me get so,
Yes.
and then to friends, who are like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, what are you doing in there?
Yeah.
So it's community, I would say, as well.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah,
help.
and I think that you, along the journey, you just uncover all kinds of stories, all kinds of conditioning, and it's the
Mhm.
work of peeling that back. One of the big things for me is not having, which is so freaking hard, not having an attachment to the outcome.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like,
Yes, such a good
which
point.
is so not
Uh-huh.
easy, and
Uh-huh.
it's a constant work in progress with everything I do, but I'm the
Mhm.
kind of person, if I want a specific outcome, I will make it happen no matter
Yeah.
what. And that is what gets you into trouble and not listening and not being in touch with your intuition or the
Yeah.
signs or any of those things. And so that's been a big thing for me,
Surrender.
is the surrender. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is a tricky one because, and I think we've talked about this before, but it's worth saying over and over because it's a hard concept to grasp and practice. But a lot of my clients will ask me, but I want to have a goal. What if I do want that thing and my soul told me and it lit me up and I want to go towards it? And the trick is to have that goal. It's a North Star. You can feel it in your heart, but then you surrender next and you go, if it is meant to be, it will come. And it's
Yes.
not passivity, it's active. And you say, let the next right action show up through me
Yes.
instead of, now I have this inspiration and now I have to have a to-do list and do it and force it. It's like you can actually then step back and go, great, I made the wish, I blew the candle out. Now it's up to the universe to deliver and give me the inspiration, the spanda it's called,
Mm-hmm.
to do something next and work from that place. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting distinction.
And I think if you're like Brit, someone who feels like they have to get things rolling, because that's how most of us
Of
are,
course.
right? We're like, I still have to get things rolling. Like, then start where it
Yeah.
feels best, but commit to listening every step of the way and
Mhm.
not being tied to the next action. Let me take this. This is my first best guess or best idea of my first step. Let me take that first step and
Yeah.
then let me listen
Yes.
and help that listening inform the next step. And it tends to slow us down naturally because
Yeah.
you can't be reactive in that, right? Like, you have to you have to be the listener, you have to take in information, you have to be the observer, you
Yeah.
have to connect with your intuition. And it's all the things that spirituality talk about, is like surrendering, believing in that there's this higher power that we are co-creating with, right? And that
Yes.
we in our silly little brains don't even know how big and beautiful life can be. Like, that always brings me some peace, because I'm like,
Yeah.
uh, I'm not even scratching the surface of how good this can get. Like, why would I put myself in charge of knowing what the outcome is, you know?
I love it. I'm getting this really clear visual of like a Zen monk kind of archetype figure where you take a step, like you see the mountain, but really what you're seeing is like you just take a few steps and then you realize there's a whole vista there, and there's a beautiful stone bench, and it's moss around you, and oh my gosh, there's a waterfall I wouldn't have noticed. And you take those steps, and then you just rest, and you go, I'm not tired, I don't really need to rest, I've got great muscles. It's okay, take in this moment. And then you
Yeah.
get off the bed, and then you wait and you listen, and then you go, okay, I feel like taking a next step. And then you take a next step, and maybe there's an apple tree that you can pull an apple from and bite into that, and just take your, like, it's, you're getting up the mountain and you're taking these steps, but we're forgetting about the vistas and the
Yeah.
benches and
Yeah.
the beauty around those moments of pause.
Yeah, and the journey, like we've all heard a million times and don't fully know how to put into practice, right? Like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Yes, so many cliches
I
today. I
know,
love it.
I know, but there's so many of them
It's
are
so true.
are correct, but it's like we hear them over and over again and they make sense in our brains, but then it's like how do we actually put them into play and embody them? And it's a slow winding process to
Yeah.
unwind from burnout, to have your body feel safe enough to not be doing, pushing, proving. Like that's its own whole
Right.
journey,
And
right?
if we look at like where that comes from, like at least for me, it was money scarcity. I made 4 times the amount I did my first year
Mm-hmm.
doing this, and my cushy salary. And so, financial insecurity is a real trauma. It hits, it's very scary not to know, if you can pay your bills. And so you're already in a hyperactive, hypervigilant place of like money, money, money. And so we should do a whole episode on just the
Mm-hmm.
energetics of money, but allowing that money to flow through us instead of go and grasp and chase. And again, this is a hard thing to practice, but I've really learned how to do that. And one of the best ways out of my scarcity mindset is gratitude practice.
Yes.
Instead of looking at and obsessing over my bank account of I need this and I don't know how I'm going to do this and what have I done, I sit there and go, oh my gosh, how incredible that this energetics of every cent that was put into this dollar, that was spent by someone, that was given to me, that I go and give back. And being in a generous place allows
Yes.
me to be grateful and to be like, look at everything I have, because I promise you, there's so much more that you have than you don't. And when I'm in a place where I'm like, I really can't spend money, I give. I donate something. I
Mm-hmm.
I spend time getting a little gift for a friend. I sent my sister today a little. She's going back to work after maternity leave, and it was, um,
Oh, that's
yeah,
a
like
big, yeah.
just give. It's just it's again one of those paradoxes that when you feel in financial insecurity, and you know that you're aligned with your heart and something is working, there's some signals showing you that you're on the right path, let go of it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
grasp. And I understand also that's coming from such a place of privilege. Um, but okay, I have privilege, so how do I work
Yeah.
with that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And I think for those listening, acknowledge your burnout sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah.
Listen to the signs. If any of this is resonating with you or you're starting to question how you're actually feeling, like it's time to start paying attention, connect with your soul, ask your soul what feels right, what needs to change. Like
Yeah.
don't get to the place where you're at a rock bottom and need to
Yeah.
crawl out, because that
Yeah.
coming
We
from
don't want you in
experience
the
from both of us.
spiritual
Yes.
emergency room. How much is your pain? How
Yes.
are you tolerating? We want you to come in when it's a whisper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's my hope for, anyone listening, and certainly future generations, is they don't, I think our generation is very guilty of, we're the girl boss babe
Hmm.
generation of let me prove it. Women can do anything that men can and more, which I believe that. I think it's in a different energetic level than what we've operated in necessarily, but we're a part of that generation, right? And I so fed into that, and it sounds like we both did. And so I think we have a lot of deconditioning to do, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping for future generations, like we can just stop that before it even starts, and
Yeah.
they can see the value in being instead of doing constantly, and in trusting their intuition and feeling supported and guided and co-creating. Um,
Yeah, it's so beautifully said, and I'm so excited for everyone to listen to Britt's episode because I think again it's showing real time how you're working through this ideas, and you can feel her heart and her hope and her inspiration, and you can really feel how palpable it is when that spirit self opens to her, and I'm such a privilege to allow us to guide her, and
Yes.
yeah, so.
Yeah, thank you, Britt. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And if either of our stories or the ways that Christina or I operate resonate with you, you can reach out to either of us individually. We do individual readings, we do all kinds of support, helping you on your spiritual journey, on your expansion, helping you recover from burnout, not hit burnout, hopefully. All the things. You can reach out to us directly, or we've started to take the show on the road, and we've had requests for how we, similar to what we do on here, that we record for you as a double reading. And so having much more time, we do 45 minutes with both of us. And those have been really fun. And
Yeah,
I
oh
think
my God.
really, I hate to use the word productive in an episode about burnout, but I feel like
Active.
they've been really,
Potent.
yes, really effective and potent
Mhm.
for our clients. So if that's something that sounds exciting to you, you can DM us. Also,
Yeah,
we'd love to help you.
come on in. The water's warm.
Yes. Get Christina during Scorpio season while you can get all that juicy wisdom before the season ends. All right, my friend, thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for your shares today and your wisdom, and to everyone listening, I hope you enjoy this episode.
Yes, love you all.
First of all, interesting, Brittany, that you shared with us. Obviously, you shared your full legal name so we could access the records, but your soul would only respond to Allison. Um, when I was trying to bring her into my space and the special place where I do readings and hang out with your soul, she would only respond to Allison. So that's just an interesting thing to share. I want to talk about your throat. And I know Christina's so in tune with the body, so I'm sure she's picking some stuff up too. But this started for me about 10 minutes before we even signed on, and just got worse as I was opening the records, this like clogging of my voice, clogging of my throat. Do you feel that? Do you feel that ever?
With me.
Yes.
I feel like I do a lot of throat chakra work. It's kind of my favorite chakra because I think we all have a unique voice to share. Um,
Mm.
and when we were speaking earlier with the tension, I keep a lot of tension in my shoulders and on the right side of my jaw. So the fact that you picked that up just within the first few moments of us being together is right on point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's this like combating energy, and again, I'm interested to hear what Christina says, but I feel like that's part of this background noise that we're hearing that the audience won't hear. But it's like there's something like so sharp and loud that's been like building up here that needs to come out, and it's like ready to be forced out, and there's this like contrasting, there's something that it feels like you're fighting back and like swallowing down, and it's just being held right here for you, and it's like so ready to come out like loudly and clearly. Christine, are you getting any of that?
Yeah, I'm watching you too, Allison, Brittany. Um, yes, and yes, and let's get a little context about what's going on in your life, what brought you here. You mentioned that you've had a really great career, and it feels like there's a lot of confidence and pride in that, and you've really shown up for yourself, really, and others, right? It feels pretty balanced, actually. Like there's a lot of pride in your work. But you're looking to go off and do your own thing, and I'm just curious what that is and sort of. Um, yeah, that sense of speaking up is coming, and there's also like a major vertigo going on where it's like you're sort of swirling in a vortex. So we want to ground you and look into that a little bit more. So yeah, I just want to hear more from you. Tell us what's going on.
Sure. So, for the past 10 years, I have been a chief of staff to a high net worth individual and entrepreneur, and it was my dream job. I absolutely loved my job so much. I loved, the partnership with my boss. It was a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned so much about myself and about business and everything. I feel like I got my MBA
Mm-hmm.
working with him side by side because he was such a great mentor to me. And a few years ago, I was on the brink of utter burnout. I was completely exhausted. My role became it shifted to be much more personal than what I went in
Mm-hmm.
with the intentions or what the intentions were. And I
Mm-hmm.
loved my job and I loved him and everything I was doing. But I also have a family of my own. And so I really felt like I was split between two worlds. And so I created a 1 day retreat for myself and I turned off my phone and checked into a hotel for a day and I created this retreat and it completely changed my life for the better. And so my there's been this yearning inside of me of how I can create this and support other women that are going through similar battles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to gone to, Bali for a week, but that wasn't in the cards, financially and logistically. And so for the past few years, I've been working behind the scenes on this very, very slowly, very, very much in my head. And when this past spring it started to show up in my body and I couldn't get out of bed. I was having chest pains and I knew that it was my intuition speaking to me, telling me that I needed to make a decision. Either I had to move forward with this or I had to move forward with my career.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always regret it if I didn't try. So I resigned and it was a long transition out. And in August, I took a break. I took a couple months and now this week actually, I'm stepping in full time to this and it is amazing. I am, but I am really
Yeah.
afraid to step into that role and to be seen. I've been, some people in the industry call this line of work like a shadow person because you're the one making it all happen. And um, I am ready to step out of the shadows. At least I think so.
Thank you for
Yeah,
that. That's so clear. Mm-hmm.
I think that label, I don't feel like that is like exactly true. Like that the fear of being seen. Like I know that we put a label on things because and I know you're doing a ton of work outside of speaking with us, trying to expand and trying to figure things out in your own evolution. But that label doesn't actually feel correct to me. What I'm getting from your guides and from the records is that actually like they're saying like, yes, this is all absolutely your destiny, but there's this concern that there's an old pattern repeating itself. And that pattern is like, it's almost like you're 10 steps ahead on your actual mission. And you've always, like, your mission has always been a little bit reversed, where you see the potential, you see things about and for people. And so you come in to kind of support, help, like boost them up, boost them on their mission. And you've skipped the steps, like, right? You haven't done step one, which is support, have that unconditional love, like create that safe space, create that foundation for yourself. So they're not saying it's a fear of being seen. It's like the resistant energy is actually you needing to like be like, hold on a second. Like, yes, you want to create this beautiful supportive thing. That is like a huge part of your mission. It's like you have these two missions, right? And that is a huge part of it. But you've forgotten about the first mission, which is like feeling supported and safe and unconditionally loving yourself and taking care of yourself first.
Yeah, to build on that, I'm looking, there's a lot of energy balls around you that you're sort of plugged into. And, again, affirming that was right to resign, like, absolutely. And your body's also letting me know, like, don't worry, it's not going to be that loud again, because you're not going to find yourself in that situation again. You're in a place with your intuition that you can trust. And so, like, they don't have any resistance to that. The other thing, I'm going to go back to the balls of energy. The other thing, Brooke and I both picked up on this when you said, I don't know if I'm afraid to be seen. It wasn't like about being seen. It was about being heard and about being clear and about being in flow and ease. And so it's like you could be out there, in front and doing all the thing, but it's actually a matter of like your clarity coming through that throat chakra. And when I look at the balls, and so it's like, okay, how do we do that? So the energy that you had with your boss, like it did start to get staticky, where it was like, no, I don't want to use the codependence because it's not that intense, but it is a word that helps. And so then you were in service of that, and then it was like, no, I don't want to be in service of all of that, right? And then you kind of reclaimed it, but your reclamation was, I want to be in service of my family. And so then the ball of energy was like, well, now there's a codependence on your family where you still have to serve, right? This thing. And now there's a ball of energy of, I have to serve my business. I have to serve the people, right? But the business can flow through you where you're actually serving, call it God, divine source, energetic frequency, your highest frequency, where you just go, I don't have to serve anything or anyone. I just have to be who I am and be clear about what I want, and just share from a place of enthusiasm and passion instead of the MBA and the business of it, right? It's like the universe is your manager. The universe is your chief of staff. You have a chief of staff now. Okay. And it is just flowing and making sure it does everything for you to make sure that this is what's supposed to happen. So if there's any focus, it's radiating out your own desire to have this be born in the world, and then equal measurement of, and so many other people too. Like you're just one among instead of one to deliver. Okay.
Okay.
Is that tracking? Do you have any questions, thoughts?
So it is tracking, because I think that if you were to ask any of like my family members or close friends, they would say you have no problem, being seen or showing up or, speaking your truth or, but there is this almost like this jumble in my brain of like, of how do I want to show up? Like, what is authentic to myself? And so I think it's like kind of rewiring in here, showing up authentically. So yeah.
Yeah. And the answer, like very quick, is just don't show up for other people. It's just, that's it. You're showing up, but for other people.
Okay. That tracks.
There's a lot happening here, and there's a lot of energy around you and a lot of energy around your head, and your guides are just like, they're ready to simplify things for you, and they have two really simple questions. One, are you done with your burnout? Like, are you recovered from burnout? And two, what do you have to prove? What do you have to prove?
Okay. So question one, am I recovered from my burnout? I mean, I think for the most part I am, but I do think that there's this high achieving expectation that I have that is associated with output. And so it's really rewiring that and redefining what a successful day or successful work day looks like for me. And I think we talk about this, as a society, as women, like balance and like, what does that look like? And I and I don't, and the answer is I don't know what it looks like, because I'm so conditioned to think of output equals, checking off a to-do list and, and a paycheck.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm sorry, what was the second question?
You would forget this one. What do you have to prove?
What do I have to prove? I think there are so many women in, on social media and in the wellness space and, just entrepreneurs in general that I admire, and they motivate me. And I want to, I want to emulate them in my own way. And I do want to be seen. I want to share my voice. I want to share my insights. I feel like I can bring value to other women because I know what it's like to be in your shoes. And it's more of a self-fulfilling thing for me. I mean, I grew up thinking that my goal was to be a stay-at-home mom, and that wasn't in the cards for me. And I'm so grateful, because I would not have had, this incredible adventure. Um, so I don't know. I feel like I want to show up, and I'm getting all jumbled in my head of how that translates.
Because there's a disconnect between what your soul and heart knows is the true way to do this, and the truest way for you, and the examples that you and we have all seen, right? Like what we see, the girl boss, like, wellness, spiritual girl boss, like that's not the truth. And
Yes.
when I say the truth, I mean that is still a system that we are shoved into, and it still has a shit ton of ego tied to it, and whatever other layers of that prove it energy, the like it's sticky. Like, for lack of a better word, it's sticky. That is not the truth. Like, what your system, your soul, your spirit is ready to is like break free of all the freaking boxes. Like, you have been put, probably for your entire life, you've been put into a box and into these different boxes, and it's like, okay, this is how we operate. And you've, like, you can run those systems perfectly and easily, because like all the buttons are right in front of you, and like this is the vision I'm getting. It's like just you, and it looks like in a technical room full of buttons and buttons, and just pushing them. Like, you just stepped out the door and closed the door to that, and you're like, I'm never going back. That's not working for me. But then you're like, well, but if it's just what about a different box? Like, if it's a different color, the buttons look different, and your soul is like, hell no, like, stop, we're not doing this again. And so your base energy feels like, gosh, it does feel very motherly. Like that intuition of being a stay-at-home mom, like that came from somewhere, right? Like you feel very motherly, and that doesn't mean you have to even have children to be a stay-at-home mom, but it feels very motherly, very much like you have the ability to share and be unconditional love, which is a really important, huge thing on the planet, especially right now. And it's a much slower, like more in flow, very intuitive pace, very heart-centered, very like, I actually feel everything down from your throat chakra feels really important, and feels like it all needs a little bit of love, because that feels where you make decisions from, where you get your real energy, is like the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the heart chakra. That feels like the area that you should be operating from, versus the throat and head chakra. And I know you're very tapped in to your third eye too, but like you've been operating up here, and we need to bring that energy down here. Like, this is your home base, like your root sacral chakra. This is where you need to be making decisions from. You need to be more in your body. You need to be embracing like your true essence of unconditional love. You need to do it a different way than anything that you see on social media or wherever. Like, the girl boxing is not the way that you're going to do this.
it's really interesting that you say that, because I have felt so disconnected from my body that is something that I have been working towards, with doing, chakra cleanses, and just like seeing what my, like, I have this list of like, I make a list every week, and it's like, okay, what feels right for me to do this week, and then each day I look at the list and I kind of formulate my day based on that. And that, I feel like I've ignored my intuition in my body for a really, really long time to survive. And now I'm being brought back into my body and it feels a little bit foreign.
Yeah, of
Just a
course.
quick thing, because I know Christina's gonna have so much to say about that. But your guys are like, stop with the list.
Okay, I'll stop with the list.
For anything. But go ahead, Christina. Christina's very in tune with the body, so I'm sure she has a lot to shed light on here.
No, I was just gonna say be done with the list. And
Yeah.
are you an earth sign in your zodiac? Like
I'm a water sign. I'm
what's
Cancer.
okay, what's your rise? There's something about that you're attaching yourself to the list and the control and the like planning where I'm like there's probably 2% of that that's been useful to you and 98% right now that is not. And when we asked the guy, like, what do you have to prove? Instead of a feeling, you started proving to us that you knew the answer to what you have to prove. And so it was in real time where we were able to really see you and hear you that you feel, even in that question was kind of rhetorical of, I have nothing to prove, is what your guides sort of were guiding you to say. Like, and there was an emotion behind that, a really deep emotion of what if I have nothing to prove, then I'm not worthy of being here, then I am nothing. And you wouldn't even go, it was like such a quick moment where you got right out of that feeling instead of dropping into the body. Your guides want you to know you are not doing anything wrong. This is not a problem to solve. This is not a list to tackle to say, well, I'm not in my body, why aren't I in my body? It's creating a pause from what if I don't have the perfect answer? What if it's all a mess? What if I am just open to approaching this endeavor in a different way? And it's going to be coming through the surrender of like, it's not up to me to answer this question perfectly. It's not up to me to show up to this to-do list. And I'm not going to fall apart and be lazy if I don't. And so it's your guides kind of being like, oh, sweet one, it like really like, who are you? And I know also here, like they're just acknowledging like you're on camera and they're speaking and this is important and people are going to connect with your message, right? And there's something about that that's kind of creating this perfect storm for us to see like that block. And it's like dropping down to the feeling and the pause that's going to make a big difference. Interestingly, when I was looking at your name, this thing keeps coming up, which is no coincidence why you brought it up. When I was looking at your name for the Akashic records, I kept seeing your married name and I was like, something's going on with you, like your husband and some entanglement in his work and your relationship, and you sort of touched on it, but there's something to free up between the two of you too, and it's almost like they didn't want you to even claim his name, and like there's something about it. And again, it's not that you did anything wrong, but it's sort of like you're attaching these energies, and it was like it's not even Garcia. And what that's allowed is a lot of his spirit energy has entered your system, and a lot of his ancestors actually are here. And I'm like, that's so strange. Like, he's not even in the room. Like, there's something going on there. And so there's something about that dynamic of you stepping into this new thing and the motherhood and whatever he is. It's almost like I want to ask what he does for work and like how that's important to him. And
Sure. It's a part of this. So
yeah, okay.
I'll just touch really quickly. My husband and I are high school sweethearts.
Hmm.
We've been married for 17 years. We've been together for 26. So like we have this long
Hmm.
history. And
Hmm.
he we moved out to California for him to pursue a career in film, and he fell into creating educational content. And he is like my partner with creating this because this is what he does for a living. He has a production company. And so
Oh,
it's very much him helping me behind the scenes of of
Mm.
putting this whole business together. So that's probably where the entanglement is.
It is, yeah. Again, I would pause on that.
Okay.
Because again, that's like, it feels like a should. Like, why wouldn't I rely on him and our partnership and our trust to like help me with this? But you're sort of still putting the dynamic of like who's like the chief of staffing of it all, right? Like, there's like a man you're
Uh,
showing up for and with and to, and it's almost like just give it space. Like, just he doesn't need to go full send into helping you. We don't even
okay.
know if that's the right partnership for your business, is what they're saying. Like, they're
Okay.
almost like they want there to be a separation between your marriage and your love and your intimacy and the business.
Okay.
And it's not to mean that you're meant to go it alone. There are partnerships coming that are going to support you, but you just need a minute to just be like, hold on, I don't need to have a to-do list and give him a to-do list either, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
going to let
That
Brooke
makes
kind of, yeah, give some final thoughts here, Brooke. This is,
1000% backing up everything Christina's sharing, and Sherry shares it in such a beautiful way that sometimes the Akashic records are a bit more blunt and harsh. So I like to have Christina deliver some of that information. But yes, and not that there's anything wrong with that partnership with your husband, like in the material world, but you you're you need space. You need to be in your own energy. It's like you have energetically supported, and knowing that history, that makes sense too with what Christina's saying, why his ancestors are shown up. Like as she was sharing that, it's like you've energetically like supported so many people. You are doing that in your physical life, but energetically you are supporting so many people, and it's like we need to let that go. We need to let that down. You need to have your own space. You need to get to know your own energy. You need to start being able to really pull off the layers of conditioning of this, we'll call it the chief of staff persona, and to-dos, um and really feel into what is right and what is true for you. And you need physical space from people, you need energetic space from people, you need to take a pause. And I know that that feels uncomfortable, but I want to, like, just for a second talk about what a pause, based on your situation, what a pause could look like for you. So what does that feel like when I say, like, you need to take a pause and get some space and do some internal work?
it feels a bit
pause before you answer.
okay.
Take a moment. Hold on. Great. There you go.
It feels scary because I am
Mhm.
a doer and I'm a high achiever, and I've always dreamed of having a really, really big, fulfilled life. And I've never wanted to count on anybody else but myself because I knew I could always do it. And it's scary and uncomfortable. And um, I've always felt like I've needed to show up for everybody and be the cheerleader. And I like that. I like being a support. I like being a support system to people in my life that I care about. Um, but it weighs on me.
There you are. There she is. Of course you're scared. It's freaking scary. It's okay to be scared. The beauty in your following your intuition to get the spark of, I'm going to build this business, is you created a 24-hour pause. And that's where you birthed this from. And the gift of you building this is going to be you being really intentional about pausing as many times as you need as you continue, because that's where the next step of your to-do list will come from, that source of, and then all of a sudden I was filled with an inspiration of what the right next step is. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. It's so beautiful to be with your spirit. I'm so in love with you. This is really beautiful stuff. You're so, so courageous. And Brooke can't help
Britt,
but speak again.
I can't because I can relate to this so much. I
Yeah,
relate to it so
yeah.
much. I'm also a Cancer sun. I'd love to know your other two signs, but like I think when you can do the work, I think there's some safety here that needs to be dug into. You need to talk to your inner child, see what she needs to feel safe, and know that you are completely safe. And you're the more you are you, the closer you get to that safety. But I think that your ideas of what a big beautiful life are going to look very, very different once you start to unwind the stories, unwind the conditioning, and really, really do the deep work. And a pause is not a negative thing. It doesn't mean you have to stop moving forward on stuff. It means you get space in different ways. Maybe you move forward in a slower way, or move forward in a smaller way to start. It doesn't have to be this big whole full retreat is the first thing you're planning. Like maybe it's micro moments with women, maybe it's a once a month meeting. Like just slow it down and allow yourself the space to do the work that needs to be done on yourself, to feel safe, to really understand who you are, what you want out of life, and what a big beautiful life actually looks like, because it's not going back into one of those boxes. And that's the path that you keep pushing yourself toward, and that's where this your soul is a hell no on that, and it's not going to happen. She's not going, okay. So you can keep fighting it and keep having this resistance and this confusion, or you can give in, pause a little bit, and really commit to doing the inner work and slowing down, knowing you're going to get to exactly where you're supposed to go, and it's going to be bigger and more even.
Mm,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. If you could summarize one thing that really stuck out to you that you'll take away in a sentence or so.
Um, I think I've been afraid to go back to, I've been afraid to go back into the box, like Brooke, you were saying. I am the limiting beliefs that I've surrounded myself with um, are things that I've been working through. And, but clearly there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. So this is a lifelong process. And I'm excited. I mean, I am excited for it because, I mean, I love this stuff, or else I wouldn't, be excited to create a business around it. So,
Yeah. Joy.
yeah.
When you joy. Okay, so what's your psychic party trick? We love to ask.
Oh,
So there's a way to play with
okay.
your intuition and all of this. Let's hear it.
So, my psychic party trick is that I have a photographic memory when it comes to faces. So,
Ooh.
I can, like, if you were to give me my kindergarten yearbook, I could name like 80 or 90% of the people that I went to kindergarten with. So, it's
Amazing.
the running joke is like when in college we would, my friends and I would go out and they'd be like, okay, who are we going to run into from elementary school that Brittany knows? Because I would just see them and, um, connect with them. And I remember like all the random details and things. So that's my party trick.
I love
Cool.
that.
I
I
love
have the
that so
opposite.
much.
Whatever the opposite is.
Well, my love, I know so many people are going to relate. I know Brooke and I both can relate on a personal level, and that's just to say you are so not alone on this path. And thank you again for your courage, for allowing yourself to be heard today. That's an important part of your journey. And thank you for trusting us with this. You'll
Well,
have to
thank
keep
you
us
both.
posted. We can't wait to follow along.
Yes, thank you. I think you guys are amazing and I appreciate it all. And I'm excited to see what's next.
Mhm.
We're excited too. Thank you so much, Britt.
Thank you. Bye.